swamp. Yes, we can.
New Labour will give new life to Britain.
We will smash the gangs. Let's get Brexit done.
Well, if Britain is broken, then logically, Britain needs reform.
For the many, not the few.
God, all terrifying if you put it over that music. Well, John Yorke is a British TV producer, screenwriter and editor, and he's written a new book, Trip to the Moon, Understanding the True Power of Story. And he's here now. Hello, John.
Hello, Matt. Lovely to see you.
So, lots of conversations about politicians and how they can tell stories. What could they learn from Jaws?
Well, Jaws is the basic archetypal story stripped down. So if a story is fundamentally a person has a problem, they go on a quest to solve that problem. Just when all hope is lost, they look at the lessons they've learned on the journey, they rise up, they kill the shark, and they save the world. And Jaws is just a wonderful distillation of it. You scrape, as I say, scrape all the barnacles off the boat. You just have a protagonist you love, an antagonist you're desperate to kill, and if you manage to kill them, you save the world. And that's sort of the ultimate archetypal story.
And the mayor in Jaws uses the threat of the shark to his own ends.
Yeah, so he's, for the people we're rooting for, he's just another malevolent antagonist who gets in the way of goodness, which is obviously Chief Brody's final goal, is to restore civilization to its pristine condition.
But obviously, it doesn't all work out brilliantly well, him telling everyone to get back in the sea.
He's not a good man.
It's not necessarily the best approach. But this is quite... I mean, there are obviously lots of examples of politicians who've successfully sort of landed the baddie. I suppose it's about creating a baddie and then being the person who sort of saves us from this. So this is in 2015, David Cameron, obviously being the head of the coalition up until that point, launching his 2015 election campaign.
Now, today I went to the palace to see Her Majesty the Queen to mark the dissolution and to kick-start what I think is the most important general election in a generation. There is a huge amount at stake. It is a very stark choice. We either continue with the long-term plan that has turned our country round, that's put the country back to work, that's making Britain a success again, or we put all of that at risk with Ed Miliband and Labour, more taxes, more debt, more spending, more waste, all of the things that got us into the mess in the first place. It is a high-stakes election.
And we hear versions of that in just about every election going, but it's quite a distilled version.
Yeah, it's very solid. It's a bit prosaic, but it does its job, which is, it says, if we defeat this enemy, we have a long-term economic plan to restore. It's about broad, sunlit up plans once again. So it's those three elements. Is I'm Chief Brody, he is the shark. If we kill him, Britain will be prosperous again.
And I suppose, because to some extent, Keir Starmer's tried to do that at various points, maybe the last 6 months, sort of making Nigel Farage the shark, to continue the metaphor, but then maybe lacking the other bits that you're talking about?
It's very confused. It is a massive problem, partly because he's not keen to go too far for Farage because of the Donald Trump connection and those kind of things. So there's no real clear enemy. I mean, I think the first weeks of the new Labour government were incredibly instructive because he made, I think, a couple of terrible narrative mistakes, which is if you stand up and your first week you make a speech and say everything is terrible, that by itself is awful. It's not a story. What you have to say is everything is going to be terrible and it will really be tough. But if you stick with me, this is our goal. And that's what long-term economic plan is. It's a version of that.
And of course, long-term economic plan only came about because their short-term economic plan didn't work initially, and it took them longer to get the deficit down. But they took actually what was a weakness and turned it into a strength.
It's absolutely that. I mean, it's not about logic and rationality. It's about simple emotional storytelling, which you're distilling something complex down into something really basic and convincing people you are Chief Brody.
Somebody's just texted in. Barry says, never forget, Matt, that the mayor in Jaws was still the mayor in Jaws 2. So whatever happens, he's still there. Let's talk about, so that's sort of like you need a baddie. Let's talk about the importance of character. Yeah. And in your book, you reference Happy Valley. So let's hear a little bit of Catherine Coward.
I'm Catherine, by the way. I'm 47. I'm divorced. I live with my sister, who's a recovering heroin addict. I have 2 grown-up children, 1 dead, 1 who doesn't speak to me, and a grandson.
And there's a character in, 9 seconds?
Yeah, it's that opening of Happy Valley is quite brilliant because what it does in those 9 seconds is make us go, oh, I love you. I want to be you. There's an essence of that. You actually, your mirror neurons start firing in your brain. You start behaving as if you are her. So it's a very intense emotional relationship. And the best politicians do that too. They don't all. Because, Keir Starmer would be a clear example of someone who doesn't. Joe Biden too. Sometimes if the antagonist is scary enough, like Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, you just have to be as normal and bland as possible, like Tintin, if you like, for people to like you. But the intense emotional relationships a Corbyn can create or a Donald Trump can create, they are the most powerful.
And I suppose status matters as well. That if you're in opposition and the baddie as you're presenting is in power, you're the sort of the underdog taking on, and then suddenly the power's flipped. And so sometimes, and I've definitely picked this up speaking to someone in the Labour Party, like, why is Keir Starmer always talking about Nigel Farage? He's the Prime Minister. Get on and, he's the main character in this film, not the shark, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's much easier to come from an underdog position because you have a natural narrative, which is let's change things.
Yeah.
As in the Brexit referendum we found, let's stay the same is not really a story.
It's not as compelling.
Yeah.
Very good. Right, we've got another TV show that we could learn from, so let's take a listen to this. So, what can we learn from the repair shop? There they are, fixing old teddy bears and bicycles and whatever else. How can that inform political storytelling?
Okay, well, one of the most powerful storytelling tropes of all is nostalgia. And it has an interesting, although I have to be careful because I don't want to be trite, there's interesting parallels with fascism. And I'm not saying for a second the repair shop is fascist, but what fascist that would
the avoidance of doubt, that is not what we're saying.
Please don't write in. What fascism always promises is order and a return to the past, a golden age or reborn once again. And you see that trope again and again in telly, from Repair Shop to Antiques Roadshow to How Clean Is My House? It's the same thing. Is we will restore order once again. It's incredibly compelling, and nostalgia particularly so because the people who tend to vote as they get older, tend to hark back to a past because a lot of us are more disappointed when we get older.
And there's a reason why the repair shop exists rather than somebody who goes in with an old broken spinning top and just gets given a new one, which would serve the same purpose, but that's not what the programme is about.
It would be a very short-running programme.
And here's a new chair.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to work.
So it's about tapping into... these are human instincts about how you tap into them. Now, I want to ask you about this. This is a particular sort of trope which comes up all the time, and has done in the last week or so, with Keir Starmer versus Donald Trump and all of that. And people saying, why can't politicians today emanate a fictional Prime Minister? And we hear this all the time. So this is Hugh Grant playing the Prime Minister in Love Actually.
We may be a small country, but we're a great one too. Country of Shakespeare, Churchill, the Beatles, Sean Connery, Harry Potter, David Beckham's right foot, David Beckham's left foot, come to that. And a friend who bullies us is no longer a friend. And since bullies only respond to strength, from now onward, I will be prepared to be much stronger. And the President should be prepared for that.
So that's Love Actually, obviously written and directed by Richard Curtis, distributed by Universal Pictures. Now, there's obviously a lot going on there. There's, it's sort of patriotism. It's a little bit of humour. Standing up to the bigger character, the underdog star. Yep. Is it actually all just about, if you took any political speech and put some searing strings underneath it, that would help?
It would help, but you're not Hugh Grant.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing. I suspect people have given those lessons to Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband before him and said, try, this or try that. But unless you have it innately, Blair had it. Thatcher in her own way had it. There's an extraordinary charisma about those people that some people have that others don't. And that charisma triggers emotion. You move from, you're quite nice to, oh, I love you. It's a really powerful thing. But you kind of need to be Hugh Grant to pay that off.
And, the payoff there, the US president should be prepared for that. What we don't see is that just after Christmas, the US president imposes a load of tariffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lovely fantasy. But of course, we have lived under the umbrella of American protection for 70 years until, this year. Because we don't say that stuff.
Yeah.
Partly.
And actually, I suppose that clip is exactly the nostalgia. It's the repair shop approach of politics.
Yeah.
Harking back, David Beckham's left foot, David Beckham's right, and all that.
It's a Churchillian fantasy, isn't it? Absolutely, and it's very powerful.
And it's tapping into all of that.
Yeah.
So how then does your life making so many amazing TV shows over the years, then can you watch politics and not be annoyed by the speeches they make or the approaches they're taking? Well, you wouldn't do it like that.
I was very annoyed in the first month of the Labour government. I did bang my head against the table a couple of times because you're just making mistake after mistake. Yeah, there's that speech, then you have the expenses, then you launch a bill to kill old people. Again, paraphrasing, but it's just bad storytelling. And you can't do that if you want to survive. The only time Labour have won power from opposition is by telling really powerful, simple stories. So you get in the Second World War, you get Holmes, now Win the Peace. It's brilliant. Harold Wilson, the white-hot heat of the technological revolution. Blair knew.
And so given, is the problem, if you'd been given all the component parts that Keir Starmer has since the summer of 2024, could he have done all the same things and just communicate? This is is it about communicating the same things in a different way? Or is it actually the cards he was dealt means there isn't the money you might want to spend? Politics is so volatile these days that, Labour MPs aren't as helpful as they might be. The systems don't work and all of that.
Some of that's true, certainly. I mean, he inherited a terrible mess, and the deficit alone is enough to crush most governments. But the simple fact of not having a goal, it's really crippled it. You need a vision, and you need a way of articulating that vision, ideally symbolically. Again, Churchill was the master of that, obviously, but you have to have that. If you don't have that, everything sort of just falls away.
And I can't ask, because you've worked, I was looking through the lists, East End to Shameless, Life on Mars, Warfall, like every type of storytelling almost.
Yeah.
What state is TV in right now? Because it feels like simultaneously we're told that no one's watching telly anymore, they're all watching brain-rotting stuff on YouTube, while also living through this halcyon, the golden age of streaming and box sets, and there's too much good telly to watch.
It's a really interesting time. I mean, there is lots of great telly, but the big story, I think, at the moment is slowly becoming the 51st, 52nd state of America. If Comcast succeed in buying ITV, if the license fee continues to diminish, Netflix, Amazon, they have so much more money. One episode of Game of Thrones costs more than an entire year of EastEnders, and that's what you're up against. And so slowly, what makes us unique and British, we just sell to America.
And are they able to do that because America's but also they're making that thing for a global audience in a way that if you're the BBC, you're making it for a UK audience primarily.
Yeah, well, they just have a better cost model. It's how do you make money? And the BBC are trapped by a licence fee, which has diminished by 30% since the Conservatives first came to power. And Netflix, their budgets just dwarf. So there's massive TV inflation. All the writers, all the crews go to those places. It's just basic economics.
So where does it all end up in the end?
Well, it needs a government that realises that society's ability to tell its own stories is fundamental to its health, and the only way you can do that is by keeping it indigenous and keeping it, making it economically secure.
And do we get too hung up on what we're watching it on? Is it about watching, having good quality stuff to watch?
Yeah, it's narrative. The narrative, changes over years and years. How it's disseminated, and it's not terrestrial TV anymore, but YouTube. Fine, it's great. It's narrative is the important thing, and what you want at the heart of any healthy democracy is an organisation a bit like this one, whose job is to tell the truth to people, and not necessarily for profit.
Well, we do our best. I'm glad that we've learned what Jaws, Happy Valley, Repair Shop and Love Actually could teach our politicians, but also about the future of telly. John Yorke, great to see you. Trip to the Moon, Understanding the True Power of Story is out on Thursday. Thursday this week. That's the part of the story we've got to remember to tell. John, great to see you. Thank you very much for that.